Hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube. Myself, Mark Carlaw, and Riley Finch. Mate, it's been a bit of an emotional time for West Ham the last week or so. The passing of David Gold, 86, mate, is good innings for the man, but still a bit of a shock. I mean, I know he died quite suddenly. I think he had a short illness. I know there'd been rumours for a little while that he'd been suffering from ill health. I know we hadn't seen him for quite some time at the ground. It's very sad, very, very sad news, and I think out of all the flack that the owners do get from the fans in terms of the management of the club, especially the move to the stadium and all these things that are built up. And I know that GSB out has been a big thing. We've all kind of been pushing for new change of ownership and things like that. Is it fair to say that out of the owners, when I'm talking about the owners, David Gold and David Sullivan and possibly Brady involved in that, David Gold was probably the most popular out of those three?
Oh, I think that's undisputed, mate. He's definitely taken a back seat in the last couple of years. We never say Gold buys. It's always, Sullivan maybe would be punting his sort of salthouse loans and things like that. So I definitely think he took a back seat the last couple of years and maybe got a little bit of unfair criticism, kind of got lumped in with the likes of Brady and Gold. I think if you've got like an order of who you wanted to lead the board, it'd probably be Brady, Gus Sullivan, then Gold. He was a proper West Ham fan. He still is a proper West Ham fan. And I think everyone who's ever spoken about Gold has always said that. I don't know many people who have a bad recount of Gold. I mean, let's be honest, he did make a couple of blunders on Twitter every now and then. He has in the past, he has made some mistakes. But yeah, he's definitely one of the more favourable members of GSB. And I think that's also shown in his shares. I think what's going to happen with his shares is undisputed. I think obviously the ownership will pass down to his children, I imagine. But I would probably imagine either Krasinski or what I would imagine probably happen is Sullivan will buy out the rest of his shares as a kind of maybe even as like a kind of thank you to his business partner to buy the rest of his shares. But yeah, it's a very sad day, very emotional, very, very quick. And I think it's very easy to kind of forget that, these are people. Yes, we've shared our fair bit of hate for GSB because, we love our football club and we want it to do well. But at the end of the day, someone's lost their dad, someone's lost their granddad, and and we've lost a proper West Ham fan in David Gold. So I think if you put GSB even aside, all the GSB out stuff and all the board protests, it is a sad day for West Ham. At the end of the day, they have, whatever you think about them, they came in at a time and have, our club has improved since then. So
absolutely,
you've got to be thankful for him.
Absolutely. I couldn't say it any better, mate. I think that there's no denying that where the club is now to where it was when I took over at 2010, there's no denying the club is in a better shape. We've even just seen it with our recent financial results for the year. The turnover is incredibly higher. We actually made a profit for the first time in a long time. So, that side, you've got, like you say, he's a human being. He's a West Ham fan. There's no way, and I'm including Sullivan in this. There's no way that these owners want to do badly. They want the club to do badly. Of course, they want what's best for West Ham. Yes, some of the decision making is a bit confusing at times. Some of it is frustrating. We all look back and go, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?" But it's always easy to sit from the sidelines and say, "Oh, yeah, I'll do better. I'd do better." That's like anything. We do it with the government. We do it with everything, don't we? If I was in charge, I'd be brilliant. But the reality is, when you're there, it's probably a very different scenario, very difficult. And like you say, he just came across like such a decent person, and everyone that's ever had interaction with him. I've never met David Gold, but I think if I could pick one that I'd want to meet, he would certainly be the one owner I'd love to sat down with and shared a drink with and had a chat with, because he just seemed like such a genuinely lovely man. When I spoke to X and Dave about it, they said he was just lovely, like really passionate. All he talked about was West Ham. He just wanted to do well, wanted the club to do well. It's all he cared about. He was absolutely devoted to West Ham doing very, very well. Of course, being a family man as well. He adored his family. So, yeah, it's a really, really sad time for the football club. And obviously, he's lived a long life and done very well for himself. And I'm sure overall had a very happy life. So, but ultimately, it actually feels though his passing has actually brought a bit of togetherness to the club where it's been missing in recent months. It feels like since the turn of the year, form's not been great. Europe aside, domestically we've been pretty poor. We've lost. I know Mark Noble's back at the club now, but we lost him as club captain. We've lost Stuart Pearce. All these sort of things have broken a little bit of togetherness at the club, and it's almost like David Gold's passing has brought everyone a little bit back together again, and feels a bit like, okay, there's bigger things than football. Let's remember what we're all here for. We're all here together, all in it together. And is it a coincidence that since David's death that we've not lost a game? We played 2 games, played okay. Things are starting to turn. I'm not suggesting that that's the real reason behind it. I'm sure there's more to it, but it does feel that it has brought a little bit of togetherness, and I hope so anyway, because I'm sure he'd be looking down and be very pleased that that's the case, if that is the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Moyes has been quite close with the board over the last couple of years. So I think if anyone was going to sort of say, look, if there's any time to sort of show a bit of fight and show a bit of passion, today would be the day. David Gold, like we say, is a West Ham fan. And I think if anything, he just wants the club to do well. So I'm not sure I'd probably attribute our success directly to that. But I mean, it's very possible to say it. All the West Ham players that came on Twitter and sort of shared their stuff, even the West Ham Twitter account sort of putting their differences aside. Like we say, not all of us wanted the board in, not all of us necessarily, like what the board have done. But everyone's put their differences aside because, like we say, David Gold was a human being and a West Ham fan. So, yeah, I mean, it's very sad. It's also very sudden, to be fair. I sort of read it on Twitter, broke on Twitter first, and I didn't really think it was true. I sort of, it was just so sudden. And you just don't imagine that sort of thing happening, the owner of a football club dying. So, yeah, it was all very sudden, but hopefully, it does bring a bit of togetherness, and maybe the disjoint that the club has at the moment is going to solve itself a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was sudden. It was a little bit out of the blue, and I know I'd known for a little while he'd been unwell, and I think that it was slightly on the cards that it was coming in the possibly this year. But yeah, and in a way, I always find if someone does fall ill, I mean, this is just my personal friend, I actually find it a bit more relief. Then you don't really want it dragging out, and I'm sure his family feel the same. Although they're mourning, obviously, it's quite a nice feeling to think that he's not suffering. If that is the case, he was suffering. So no, I ultimately, I'm still grateful to David Gold. I think he's done, they did come in and do well for the club because they have turned it around. Yes, there have been decisions that we've all gone, why have they done this and why they got rid of there? Why did they do that? The stadium obviously being the main one. Why have they done everything the way they have? But ultimately, we still are in a better position. This season at the side, let's say, at the moment. But ultimately, we've done much better. None of us could have dreamt going to Europa Leagues and doing things like that. I don't think that was light years away, but we've achieved it. So, no, fair play to him. And I just hope, thoughts with their family, obviously, at this time, and his friends. And let's hope that West Ham can continue to improve and do well, and in his memory.
Rest in peace, David Gold.
Indeed. Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.